What's up, everybody? So Jess isn't with us today, as you might have noticed. This is live stream Sport Ham. I'm going to look at a video that's been put out a while back by AIG Ken Ham. It takes place at the Ark Encounter in their auditorium, and we're going to take a look at that eventually. Before we get there, though, this. What's up, Ascalon? This whole show is just kind of to have a bit of fun at Ken Ham and AIG's expense as we lead up to the ARC protest. This is the 10th anniversary of that, and let's see. I should have a flyer thing here. This is not the correct one, so we'll take that down. Let's see. Media files. Anyway, the the Ark Encounter protest. This is the 10th anniversary of it. It'll take place on July 12th at noon in Williamstown, Kentucky. There's a whole weekend full of stuff associated with it. Seth Andrews is going to speak. No Illusions is going to speak. Godless Engineer, Godless Granny, um, Mandisa Thomas, and Kelly Laughlin are all going to speak. And I've got an updated graphic for it if I can find it. But if you follow me anywhere else, you've seen all that, so it's all good. The if you need more information, you can go to arcresistance.com. That's a website we set up with info about the speakers and all that stuff. All donations made to the donation link, which is listed in the description, will get some collectible cards that were given out. They look like this. That's the Ken Ham one. Let's see if we can. We've got cards for our sponsors, cards for Team Genocide, and of course, cards for our speakers. So, yeah, if you any donation, I'll email you some digital copies of those cards. We will have some versions of those printed out and put some signatures and stuff on them as at the art protest and the event the night before. Seth Andrews and No Illusions are headlining a speaking event in Cincinnati the day before the art protest. Um, what is the battle power of the Ken Ham card? Yeah, so I actually that's something I thought about is making given stats to these cards so we could actually make a trading card game out of them. And we may do that. Nobody's donated since we started doing it, so um, I take that back. Godless Granny made a donation, but there's been hasn't been real active as far as that goes. But also, haven't been doing a lot of pushing that. I've been busy with other things and stuff. We had to rework some of our sponsorship stuff, and Pangburn decided not to sponsor the art protest this year, which is fine. They said they had overspent already or whatever, and no big deal. Um, uh, Godless Engineer and Rocket City Reason Conference stepped up though and filled in a lot of that slack that was left over from Pangburn dropping us. We had Pangburn had said they intended to and wanted to and all those things, and then said they had some money problems and couldn't, which whatever. It's no nothing negative towards Pangburn. They made it possible that we did it last year, so I'm thankful for that. No drama, just had to switch some things around. Um, but anyway, how are you doing today, Lamont? How you doing, Kelly? I've already said hi to Ascalon, but hi again, Ascalon. What's up? So anyway, I've got a video today, and we'll go ahead and switch over to here. And this video, yes, there's things here that is AIG and Ken Ham that we're going to look at and, of course, correct those wrong things. But it's more of what they're doing here that I want you to keep in mind. I want you to think about what the goal is here and the techniques that they're using to engage with children in this video, because this is one of my major sticking points with the Ark encounter and Creation Museum. Now, to be clear, I've had some people mention about why we protest the Ark encounter, and there's a number of reasons that people come out to it, but the thing that really got it, Seth can have plus 50 charisma when talking. Yeah, no doubt. The uh, and yeah, anybody who wants to make a donation, let me see. It should eventually it'll start rolling through chat on its own, but that should bring it up now. Um, so you know, I want to talk about why we do it though. So the Ark encounter, whenever it originally was built, they went to the people of Grant County in the state of Kentucky, and they applied for these tax rebates, which the state was giving out to try and get people to build and bring business here. Well, they went and they said we're going to bring 2 million visitors a year. They never have achieved that number, not once. And they're going to bring all this money and people are going to come stay in your hotels and eat at your restaurants and all this stuff. So, give us these tax rebates. It's totally going to be worth it. Well, shortly after all of that was agreed to and everything, Ken Ham sold the Ark Encounter to his nonprofit. And so now you have a nonprofit that doesn't have to pay any taxes and got all these rebates already and continuing to get them. So essentially, what would have happened, it would have been not just the Kentucky taxpayer subsidizing the Ark Encounter, you would have been paying Ken Ham to be here. That's what that would have amounted to. I think. Not a tax lawyer, not legal advice. So anyway, there were many lawsuits filed. And do you need me? Okay. All right. Bye bye. Be careful. Love you. So there were lawsuits filed about this, and what they decided was, and Ken Ham won, but they had to switch it back over to a for-profit place, and I do not have a card yet. Um, that's the first. We have the first 12 made, and whenever those, like, if it's to see if people were interested in it. They there will be more though, many more. Um, but so the court decided that Ken Ham could build his place, which he by trying to sell it to his nonprofit, he essentially admits that this is a religious organization and that this is teaching religion, not history, not science. They call it a museum sometimes. They call it a theme park other times. It's not that. It's religious indoctrination dressed up as those things. And the harm that has been done to Kentucky taxpayers in Grant County is very apparent. You can find all over YouTube videos of about the damage that's been done to the area, because what they did is they opened their own resort. They started buying the hotels. They put in their own restaurants. So none of that money went there. And then whenever they were like, they needed money for emergency services and stuff, and they wanted, they were going to add taxes to the Ark protest, of course, or the Ark encounter. They, of course, sued and fought that. Ended up making a one lump sum payment. They still don't pay that. And everything they pay in taxes, 85% of it gets returned to them. Meanwhile, the AIG jet makes constant flights to the Cayman Islands, where it parks on the runway for 15 or 20 minutes and then takes off and leaves again. So you decide what that's about. Anyway, there are lots of problems with it. The the separation of church and state establishment clause in the Constitution is a big one, and lots of people come out just to speak out against the indoctrination of children and passing this nonsense off as science and history. So it means different things to different folks, but it's rooted in separation of church and state issues. It should not be there. It should not be operating the way it is. What's up, Maya? Good to see you. But it is. And so we're going to look at this video, but this isn't about debunking the claims. Like, I will address the claims as we go, but I want you to pay closer attention to the techniques and what they're doing to these children, because I have said a number of times on this channel and everywhere that AIG profits off of brainwashing children. They fill an auditorium full of children. Ken Ham stands up there and says, "Repeat this line after me," and tells them what to say, and then makes them repeat it over and over. And you're going to see that here. That's actually going to happen in this video from the very beginning. So that's the thing I want you to be aware of. We'll talk about the claims for sure, but it's the danger and the harm that they're doing to children in this video. So let's just go. I wasn't going to watch the first few minutes, but we'll go ahead and watch it just to see what's up.
Well, boys and girls, mums and dads, we love doing this program for families. It's called Dinosaurs and More. And as we get underway, I'm going to ask you to put your hands up in answer to some questions I'm going to ask. Put your hands up if you've heard of the word evolution. Oh, look, I think everybody has. Around the world, actually. Put your hands up if you've heard that people supposedly evolved from ape-like creatures. Yeah, I think we've all heard that. And put your hands up if you believe, or not believe, but if you've heard that we came from, that dinosaurs lived 65 to 200 million years ago. Yeah, I think we've all heard that dinosaurs lived 65 to 200 million years ago. Well, I want to tell you right from the start today that Buddy and I don't believe in evolution. Evolution is the idea some people have to try to explain life without God. They believe it just came about by chance, random processes. It'd be sort of like this. Here's a church building. How did it get there? Well, somebody put a load of bricks, put a stick of dynamite, there was an explosion, and look what happened. Do you think that could happen by chance, random processes? No, not at all.
Sorry. Yeah, I muted myself. Thanks for letting me know. So Kent Hovind often says this, and he'll say a tornado goes through a junkyard and builds a car that runs. You know, that's the Kent Hovind version of this. But TNT is a destructive force that explodes outwards. So if you put all those things together, you would actually be separating those things. It's not. It's a poor equivocation. That being said, let's look at it in a way that compares more closely to evolution or abiogenesis, which is really the thing that he's hinting at here. If you take all the components for a church and put them all in one place, and they're constantly all the things that are needed to build that church are there, and you keep mixing them together over and over billions of years, billions and billions of times, there is a possibility that you end up with a church out of that. That it is a very small probability, but whenever you start talking about these long periods of time, small probabilities become almost certain. It's just it's a poor equivocation, but at the same time, he's also wrong. So there's that. Uh, we'll get into some of the better stuff here in a minute. It's again the way he's addressing the children. Pay attention to that.
You realize that that church building had to be designed by someone, yet for humans, we're so much more complicated than a building. So somebody far greater than a human intelligence had to design us, and that's
Okay, fallacy number two. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, Jess didn't feel well today. She was unable to join us for this. We had already rescheduled it off a week. Jess will be back next week. Sorry, you got to look at me today. Um, all right. So, of course, we go back to this thing of, well, if it's complicated, then it must be designed, and humans are complicated, therefore we must be designed, and then you want to give agency and all that stuff to it. And it's packing a lot of stuff in there. It is the definition of a presupposition. Moving on.
the God of the Bible. And we're going to talk about that today. So we don't believe in evolution. We don't believe that dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. And we certainly don't believe we evolved from ape-like creatures.
You don't accept those things. Has nothing to do with belief.
I mean, did your grandfather look like that?
Yes.
I don't think so. Did your grandmother look like that?
Yes.
No. Did you walk in like this? See the gorilla over here? That's part of the ape kind. Did you walk in look?
The ape kind. We are the ape kind, Ken. We are apes. Apes are us. You don't outgrow a clade. All that crap. All right.
Looking like that? I don't think so. Now, we're going to do a little experiment here, okay? So put your hands in the air. Let's do that. Touch your fingers with your thumb. Now do the same with your big toe and little toes. Can you do that? I hope you can't, because if you can, you shouldn't be here, because this is a human foot, and this is a chimp's foot, but it doesn't look like a foot. It looks like what? A hand. And so you see, they're designed to do what they do, and we're designed to do what we do.
Okay. Again, sneaking in, smuggling in terms like designed. Chimps are arboreal. Mostly. They have evolved in a way to where they are both extremely fit for living in the trees and walking upright on the ground. That's why their feet and hands look like that. The very same bones that make up those feet that look different from humans are present in both because we are apes.
We don't do what they do. They don't do what we do. In fact, here's a man, and he's looking at a chimp, and he says, I can think, compose music, build bridges, fly airplanes, make computers, and all you can do is what? Think about banana. Do you realize how grating that is? Banana. That's an American way of saying it.
It is, yeah.
See, Australian language is much more musical.
So he comes to Kentucky and then tells all the children that they shouldn't be speaking with an American dialect or accent. This is kind of it kind of fits with everything else. Also, all that the chimp can think about is banana is not true. They're actually in their Stone Age. They are evolving intelligence. They are using tools to get food and to fight with and everything else. Chimps have entered the Stone Age, so just wrong. And again, this is an audience of children.
It is. I mean, you think about this. Banana. Can you say banana? Banana. See how musical that sounds?
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it does, doesn't
good.
it? Okay, now I hope you know how to
Banana.
say it that way. So we certainly don't believe we came from ape-like creatures. We're very different to the apes. We believe what the Bible tells us. You know, this is God's book to us. God had people.
They literally keep referring to the Holy Bible as the history book of the universe. He does this. He even says it a couple times later. But that's not. This isn't me like putting something on screen. They did that. They said that stupid thing.
People write a book for us to tell us who we are, where we came from, where the whole universe came from. He tells us about major events in history so we can understand this world. We also are told about a problem we have called sin and the solution in Jesus. And you know, it's interesting. The very first verse of the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Notice it says, in the beginning, God. In other words, God is there. He's always been there. He's outside of time. He's the eternal God. He's the infinite creator God. I had a little boy.
If we want to talk about, and I don't have my Bible in front of me here, but the Bible opens up with talking about the waters uh, being there, and that God comes down and separates the waters from the land, and all those things. And also the order of creation is impossible. But aside from that, like he again, he just says what he needs to say to these kids. We start getting into some of the repeat after me stuff here with this.
Boy once come up to me on stage and he said, Mr. Ham, he's about 9 years old, and he said, Mr. Ham, well, who made God then? I said, well, son, here's the problem. If somebody made God, you have to have a bigger God. Who made God, right? Yes, sir. Well, I said, now you've got another problem. Yes, sir. Well, who made the bigger God? You have to have a bigger God who made the big God who made God, right? Well, yes, sir. I said, now you've got a problem. He said, I know. Who made the bigger God? You have to have a bigger God who made the bigger God who made the big God who made God, right? Yes, sir. Now you've got a problem. I know. And I said, see, you can keep going back and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you get to the biggest God of all, which is the God of the Bible, the creator God, who's outside of time. You know why we find that hard to even understand?
All right. So first of all, Ken Ham's way of addressing infinite regression is to just say, well, eventually you get to the God of the gods of the gods of the gods, right? Um, his method of saying God created everything has a problem that he says a child pointed out to him, and his way of solving that problem was to point to infinite regression and then just say, well, God. Uh, it was the main God. He didn't answer the question, obviously, but he says God's outside of time, and he expands on that a little bit. We'll wait until he finishes the claim here.
Understand? Because we're created in time. You know, when God made the heavens and the earth, it says in the beginning, he made time, he made space, he made matter, and then he created us so that we can exist in time. We have a beginning. But God,
it does not say that God created time, space, and matter. It does not say anything like that. And that's not the order of the things in the Bible either. Um, if God is outside of time, then there is no beginning. The beginning would be a meaningless term. So Ken Ham is forced to insert here that God created time, which is part of space. And yeah.
God didn't have a beginning. And that's why the Bible says there's always a faith aspect when it comes to understanding that, because we're created beings. But you know,
there's always a faith aspect. Trust me, bro.
What God has done? He's given us a book so that we can understand all about the universe and how it came to be and all the things that have happened. And we're going to talk about that today. And we're particularly going to use the Bible to explain dinosaurs. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of other subjects as well, but we're going to talk about dinosaurs too. And so, buddy, I'm going to give them a little test here, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I want you to be thinking the names of some prehistoric creatures, all right? Just think of names of some prehistoric creatures, and then I'm going to count to 3 and then yell out the name of a prehistoric creature that you've thought of. You ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I heard a lot of different names.
Heard a lot of names, yeah.
Yeah, but what they don't know is that, sorry to tell you this, but I led you into a trap. And snap, I caught you. See, prehistoric? Wait a minute. We have a Bible that God has given us, and history began from when it was recorded in Genesis 1:1, so how can there be prehistoric anything?
All right, I have a question. Does Ken Ham think that the Bible was recorded? Does he think that like Adam was busy naming and banging animals, and in between which he wrote all this down? Does because that's not when this was written down, and we actually know the history of the story at least back to ancient Mesopotamia, where it's a totally different thing. The tree and its roots and Ademu, and it's a different story. And it's why you get some of the wacky stuff that's in Genesis. Uh, that's another talk for another time. But he says it was recorded at the beginning, and that's just not. That's not even like. Of course, the whole premise is flawed, but there's no claim anywhere that the Bible was written down like as contemporarily, right? Like it's just not, that's not part of it anyway.
See, we've been impacted by the world and we don't even realize it, right? So the next time somebody says, do you know any prehistoric animals? You say, prehistoric? Wait a minute. History began from when it was recorded in the Bible, Genesis 1:1. And that's your right answer for that. Well, Buddy and I are going to go through the history book of the universe for you. In fact, that's what we call the Bible, the history book of the universe. Let's say that together. You ready? The history book of the universe. What is the...
All right. This is the gross stuff that I was mentioning. He's making these children repeat that anytime somebody mentions prehistoric or millions of years, that the Bible is the history book of the universe. And he's making these children repeat after him. He does this a number of times. This is like brainwashing 101, indoctrination, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's what he's doing here. I find this incredibly disturbing myself, but we're gonna continue on anyway.
The Bible, the history book of the universe. And you know, at the Creation Museum, how many of you have already been to the Creation Museum? Oh, lots of hands. Look at that. And hope the rest of you are going to go to the Creation Museum. Incredible place. Well, one of the centerpiece sections of the Creation Museum, we have lots of exhibits there, and theaters, planetarium, and beautiful gardens, and animal experience, and so on. But one section, we walk you through the...
Let me, if you come to the Ark Encounter protest this year, please do not go to the Creation Museum or the Ark Encounter and pay them to go through these places. Please do not do that.
Whole Bible. It's called the Seven Seas of History. We'll walk you through creation, corruption, catastrophe, confusion. That's Genesis 1 to 11. That's foundational to the rest of the Bible and to the gospel and to all of our doctrines. And so, based on the seven seas of history, which is Genesis to Revelation, Buddy and I have come up with a presentation to help you understand dinosaurs and everything else on this earth, and we call it the 7 ages of dinosaurs. Now, I want you to remember this. The next time somebody says to you, do you believe in the age of dinosaurs millions of years ago? Here's what I want you to say. No, I believe in 7 ages of dinosaurs. That will really confuse them, okay? So, do you believe in the age of dinosaurs 65 to 200 million years ago? You say, no, I believe in 7 ages of dinosaurs. Exactly. We're going to go through those ages, and I'll show them to you in a group first of all, and then we'll go through them one at a time. So as I put them up, just call out the age, okay? You'll see the word on the screen. The first age is formed. Second age is fearless. Third age is fallen. Fourth age is flood. Fifth age is faded. Sixth age is found. And the seventh age, that's the age we live in today, we call it fiction. What is it? You know what fiction means? Not true. What does fiction mean? Not true. Because we live in an age where we're told a lot of things that are not true, like millions of years, evolution, that people supposedly came from ape-like creatures. And we certainly don't believe that. So we're going to go through these one at a time. Formed. When did God form? When did he make dinosaurs? Well, the Bible tells us God made everything on 6 days and rested for one. Stop right there for a moment. I'm going to test Buddy Davis. I mean, well, it's been millions of years since he went to school. But we'll see how his mathematics does, okay? Buddy, 6 plus 1 equals?
7.
Pretty good, look at that, pretty good. 7. You know what? 6 plus 1 equals 7. Put your hand up if you have an 11-day week at your house. Put your hand up if you have a 12-day week at your house. Okay, put your hand up if you have a 7-day week at your house. Oh, wow, look at, you know why they have a 7-day week? There's only one reason in the entire universe, and you know what it is? God made everything in 6 days and rested for one, and 6 plus 1 equals what? 7. By
All right. Why do we actually have 7-day weeks? Anybody wanna try that one? Um, huh. Google shut down my Ark Encounter protest ads. Uh, wow. Uh, anyway, why do we have 7 days in a week? Well, there's this story, and Ken Ham is somewhat correct in this, but the thing he fails to mention, which he knows, by the way, is that the calendar was based on this eventually by Christians, right? There were different calendars that had different months and days and all that. And the one that was eventually settled on and used was spread by religion. And so now but that doesn't none of that confirms the Bible. That is special pleading, I believe, would be the correct term. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but um, he's saying that the Bible itself, because of the way it is confirmed by the Bible. Uh, the uh, the question informs the answer. Yeah. 365.25 day a year is ancient Egypt. Yeah. So, right. Deviant Outcast, you're correct. So, they, by watching the sun and the stars, which is all they had to do at night, when it got dark, you either light a fire or you watched the sun and the moon, or the moon and the stars, rather. Um, they were very aware of celestial movements and things like that, and they were able to figure out um, that there's this much time in a year between these different solstices, and then they of course split that into smaller and smaller divisions, and now we have nanoseconds. But the this is, I mean, it kind of sounds like post hoc rationalization a little bit as well. Um, you know, the creation story. I mean, you could have easily split the weeks into 14 days or into 3 days or whatever. You could have. There's other divisions you could have done here and still arrived at a calendar that made sense. But you have the Catholic Church informing many things. So. There's that. Um, the Gregorian calendar is the one that survived.
the way, if God made everything for 6 million years and rested for millions of years, that'd be an interesting week. It wouldn't work, would it? Wouldn't work at all. No, God made everything in 6 days and rested for one. And he tells us what he did on each day. On day one, he made time, he made space, he made matter. On day two, he separated waters. On day three, he made the dry land and the plants. And it says he gathered the waters into one place. Presumably, there was one continent, one major continent, all in one place. And then day
Um, he says this wrong too. This isn't what the Bible says. The Bible says whenever he separated the waters of the deep, and that was the difference between heaven and earth. That's where he made the separation at. He separated the waters from the skies, and then the land from the waters, and all that. So he's lying.
four, the sun, moon, and stars. Day five, the sea creatures and the flying creatures. Day six, the land animals and man. In fact, he made two people. What were their names? Adam and Eve. That's right. And you know how God made the animals? He said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures. But you know how he made humans? Do you know what he said? Let us make man in our image. In other words, we're different to the animals. And God made us in a different way. No animal was made in God's image. Only humans were made in God's image. I want you to remember that.
Okay.
So even though we have a body like a mammal's body, we're not just an animal. I want you to say after me, I'm not just an animal. I am special. I'm made in the image of God. And I want you to...
So again, with the repeat after me. I don't know of any scientific discipline, scientist, or anybody serious that says we are just an animal. Um, we are animals. We are apes. We are also Homo sapiens. We are also mammals and vertebrates and eukaryotes and all of those things. No one there's it's not that we're just an animal, and we are special in some ways, but every animal is special in some ways. Some of them have are very in tune to the magnetic poles of the earth. Some of them are able to just do incredible things, and it's because each population that has survived. Keep in mind, most of them are extinct, but they become fit to their environment. So um, we humans are different in a way that instead of we have a long history of conforming to our environment and figuring that out. But even back to the point that we started planting crops, we started changing our environment to fit us rather than the other way around, and that is unique, kind of. But the at least to the extent that we do it. We are, and even that though, like if you get down to the basics of survival of the fittest, you can get into things like the selfish gene and all that. That's a whole different conversation to have, and whatever. Again, I'm not really. The point of this is I'm pointing out some of the stupid things that Ken Ham says, but I also am I want to make sure that we see what it is that he's doing to these children, having them repeat after him these things that are wrong and harmful. This is indoctrination at work. This is a video of how children are indoctrinated into creationism. Uh, it's very, I don't know. I find it disturbing. I was talking to Laura, my girlfriend, if you don't know, about, and she'll be at the art protest too. Um, I was talking to her about like if they took my kid on a field trip to this place. I mean, obviously, I'm going to know. I would never let him go there. But if they took my kid on a field trip anywhere and somebody's standing up stage telling them to repeat these things that are demonstrably wrong, that are wrong in if you look at science, the science disagrees with this, the history disagrees with this. If they were doing, I would freak out probably. This is so disturbing that parents either allow or don't know or whatever their children to go through this. And I don't care what you believe. You can believe whatever you want. But going and he admits that this is faith based, and having your kids sit there and have somebody lie to them about science and history and things and make them repeat it after him over and over is disgusting.
To always remember that. Well, I was trying to think, what country in the world has the best, most exciting, wonderful animals that we could talk about? So I did a lot of research, and for some reason or other, I decided on Australia. That was totally unbiased, obviously. But I'm going to share with you some of the exciting animals from my homeland of Australia. And I want us to be thinking about the fact God obviously created these. Let's look at this one. What's the name of this one? Koala. A koala has a pouch, which means it's what sort of animal? Marsupial. That's right. And I know every boy and girl in America and mums and dads want to go to Australia and do what I've done and cuddle a koala. Of course, one of the best kept secrets in Australia is that in the wild they're smelly flea-bitten varmints that rip your eyeballs out. But we don't tell too many
They have chlamydia too.
people about that. But here's another one of my favorite animals. What's the name of that one? Kangaroo. And here's a joey. This is young kangaroo. Do you know when a kangaroo is born, it's like a little red jelly bean, if you can imagine, with a mouth, two legs, can't see. It knows where to go, what to do, and how to do it, and it crawls up its mother's pouch, knows where to go, what to do, and how to do it, and crawls into the pouch, knows where to go, what to do, and how to do it, and attaches itself to its mother's milk to develop from there. Who thinks that happened by chance, random, evolutionary processes of dumb luck over millions of years?
Nobody. Nobody thinks that, Ken. It's the lie that you use to try and poison the well against children. Um, the just the elephant in the room here, though, the marsupial elephant, of course. Um, Ken points to these different types of marsupials. Why is it that that Australia has so many marsupials, Ken? Why is it that you have these very different species? A very arboreal chlamydia bear that lives in a tree all of its life, eats from one tree, and then you have kangaroos also. Why do you think that happens? Huh? It's almost like there were marsupials as common ancestors with some of these things. Excuse me. And as they diversified, you see more marsupials in different habitats surviving. The populations of kangaroos and koalas and why do you think that is? He may address it. I don't know. I haven't even watched this. I watched the first 10 minutes and seen him making kids repeat after him, and I was like, "Yep, that's the thing I want to play today."
Huh. Who thinks it was designed that way? Ah, you know what I tell my grandchildren? It's designed to do what it does, do what it does, do what it does, do well, doesn't it? Don't you think it does, do you?
Yeah, I can't hear him mumbling, but it's designed to do what it does do. What it does do, it does do well, doesn't it? Yes, it does. I think it does. Do you? I do. Hope you do too. Do you? Okay, that is the most rambling bunch of bullshit, and I'm a pro at rambling. And but anyway, like, do you know the one thing that's not asked here? We've got question marks. We've got asking questions. We've got some claims in there. What's the one thing that's why? Why does it do what it does, and why does it do that well? And whenever you start to ask those questions, you inevitably end up at not intelligent design, but evolution. I mean, it's
I do hope you do too, do you? Can you say that? You can't say that? Okay, we'll have to see if we can get you to say it. Here's another one of my favorite animals. It's a wombat. A wombat has a pouch, but the pouch faces backwards and the young jump into the rear end. And I had an evolutionist say to me, if God created the wombat, why did he create it with a backward-facing pouch? Well, wombats tunnel under the ground, so if the pouch faced forward, it'd fill up with dirt and you'd get fossilized wombats real quickly, wouldn't you? Do you know what I say to my grandchildren? It's designed to do what it does, do what it does, do what it does, do well, doesn't it? Don't you think I think it does, do you? I do hope you do too, do you? Can you say that
smuggling and design.
yet? Can't say that yet? What's my favorite animal of all time? Ah, the platypus. You know why? They first discovered it in Australia in 1797, Hawkesbury River near Sydney, sent it back to England, and the scientists actually thought somebody had found different animals and cut bits off them and stitched them all together.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that did happen sometimes, especially with it was religious people that did a lot of that too, wasn't it? Yeah, but yeah, there have been some falsehoods in the history of finding things.
You know why they thought that? You think of an animal has a bill like a duck and beaver-like tail and hair like a bear and webbed feet like an otter and claws like a reptile, lays eggs like a...
All right, real quick. It doesn't have a bill like a duck, although it resembles a duck bill in some ways. Nowhere near the same thing. he says web feet like an otter, but claws like a reptile. Plenty of mammals and other animals have claws for digging. Mole rats are famous for it. Um, the tail, not like a beaver's tail in any way at all. Hair like a bear. I mean, hair like a mammal. It's a mammal. Um, the lays eggs like a turtle. Birds lay eggs. I don't know. It is unique. Well, it is rare that you have an egg laying mammal, but again, the whenever you have the Australian animals specifically that he's bringing up that are isolated from the rest of the world, they evolved to fit their environment in different ways that you see in other places because they were very isolated from those. You have islands and there's continental drift and all those things that attribute to some of the things we see, but you see marsupials and some of these animals becoming prominent because of where they're at. Um, One of the things that creationists like to say is that the reason animals are similar is because they have a similar designer. Um, and in that point, the thing I want to say is, what about Australia? Because um, animals are similar on Australia, but they're not similar to animals everywhere else in the world. Like they have snakes and spiders and all those various things, but they are very different from the things that you see in other places. And then there's also some explanations. Some were brought there by various situations and things, and so there's that. But um, whenever we talk about things being similar, you have all these similar animals in Australia, but Australia is isolated, and these animals aren't similar to animals in Asia, for example. Well, some are, but I mean, when you think about Australian animals, mostly they're not. And why is that? It's because they're not actually that similar. They're similar in that evolution has arrived at claws in various different forms. Hair on mammals has evolved in different ways. Uh, you know, I don't. The eyes have formed multiple times. Anyway, here we
Turtle
go.
feeds its young on milk like a mammal, has spurs like a rooster, and poison like a snake. I mean, if it evolved.
Spurs like a rooster, like you poison like a snake. Like again, venom, which is what it is. It's not poison; it's venom. Um, has evolved in various animals. Spurs have evolved in various forms. Like nothing here. You point out all these things and try to make it sound like it's all these different animals. Like like God was just having fun when he made the duckbill platypus. Like the name is a misnomer. The animal is being more understood now than it was in the past, which is how things go. But yeah,
From
whatever.
everything. You know what I think? Every time an evolutionist looks at the platypus, I think God smiles because I think he made it just for them.
He thinks that the platypus is a joke, that it's God's joke to the evolutionists, as he says. He's telling kids this.
And you know what I say to my grandchildren? It's designed to do what it does, do what it does, do it does, do well, doesn't it? Don't you think? I think it does. Do you? I do. Hope you do too, do you? Can you say that yet? Okay, we're going to say it together. All right, we'll do it nice and slowly first and see how we go. On the
We'll
count
have a
of
better
three,
day
stay
for it.
with me. You ready? 1, 2, 3. It's designed to do what it does, do what it does, do it does, do well, doesn't it? Yes, it does. I think it does. Do you? I do. Hope you do too, do you? That was pathetic.
I've heard better.
Heard better. It was pathetic. Okay, I'm going to pretend I never heard that. We're going to do it again. We're going to go a little faster this time and say it.
Into doing that, it helped keep us on time, right?
Yes.
And so we'll have some fun singing about the woodpecker song.
All right, before Buddy starts talking about peckers, um, The yeah, Amber, now like a god cult, let's get the chant right. Yeah, exactly. uh and this is throughout any of these things with Ken Ham. He is, whenever it comes to indoctrinating children to doing this type of thing with kids, Ken Ham loves doing these things. He goes to this big auditorium they built at the Ark, and he has children repeat false things after him until they get it right, and tells them that it's the answers to questions about evolution, the earth, history, the universe, whatever he needs it to be. So, yeah. All right, on with Buddy and his pecker.
Song goes like this.
We're getting copyright strike
How much wood
today.
does a woodpecker pack? What a woodpecker packs on wood. When a woodpecker packs, that woodpecker packs as much wood as it should pack wood. God made the woodpecker on day 5. When finished, he said, it's good. How much wood does a woodpecker pack? When a woodpecker packs on wood. You think that woodpecker's bill would break or get a migraine when it eats, but God designed that woodpecker kind of spring behind their beak. As they drill in a tree, it amazes me. Those birds don't break their necks. How much wood does a woodpecker pack when they go pack, 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 pack? How much wood does a woodpecker pack when a woodpecker packs on wood? When a woodpecker packs, that woodpecker packs as much wood as it should pack wood. God made the woodpecker on day 5. When he finished, he said, it's good. How much wood does a woodpecker pack when a woodpecker packs on wood?
And that's the pecker song. Good job.
From his side. And in fact, in the New Testament, we read in Corinthians that woman was made from man. Of course, that's saying, yes, that history in Genesis is true. Woman came from man. She didn't come from an ape woman. And when God made the first man and woman, you know what it says in the Bible? He made them male and female. And
We were watching the pecker song, Kelly. Get with it. Buddy just wanted a reason to say the word pecker 100 times in one song. So here we go. God made 2 types of humans, male and female. It's funny though that now we have some folks we know are both of those, right? Like intersex people. Um, God made them as a different type of kind, I guess. Separate is what the claim is, but then males give females give birth to males and females and intersex people. Uh, it's funny though. Also, okay, whenever we talk about like sexual dimorphism, we see that throughout the animal kingdom, and in humans, we have actually more differences than some. An idea of extreme sexual dimorphism would be like the anglerfish, I guess, where the male is essentially a a speck. um, you could even say a what's it called, a pest. Whenever the anyway, doesn't matter, not important. Um, God made male, then made female after. So biblically, he makes more sexual variations as he goes. Yeah, yeah. So the thing I don't understand though is that the animals were created, and you can make, like, especially within the ape kind, like and I'm using their words, sorry, but within apes, sexual dimorphism is similar. It's funny, isn't it, that oh God, this is special, but it's exactly the same as the other stuff. God did this one special because humans, and of course we have to be the most special thing wherever we are or aren't. Um, and so God made females as a different type of human from the males. But within the animal kingdom, first of all, he didn't even make those. He said, just come forth from the earth. which I think theists who support evolution could probably use that to make that argument. Anyway, just a stupid thing. Like, now we're not only lying to kids about history and science, but or I mean, it is science, but not only about history and geology and all those things. Now we're going to just straight up lie about biology. What makes males different than females? What is the difference between sex in a male and a female? Couple chromosomes, right? Like why the whole thing? Why the whole magic show with the rib and all that stuff? Then, right? Like and also, how do intersex people exist if male and female are two different types? Like, all right.
In other words, he made two types of humans, male and female. I want us to remember that. God made two types of humans. What were they? Male and female. Isn't it interesting, mums, dads, and teachers? We have to teach our children that, which is obvious biology, but right from when they're born in this day and age. You know, when he made the first man and woman, he was also making the first marriage.
Sex is
So
not gender.
marriage is one man and one woman. So what's marriage? One man and one woman. We also need to make sure we're teaching about.
That's not what that's not that's not what the law says. So, unfortunately, we live by laws, not the Bible, Ken.
About that these days. Remember, God created marriage, not the Supreme Court justices of the United States of America, which is very important for us to understand.
Oh yeah. Get it.
Well, here's Adam looking at the animals here, and you say, Mr. Ham, but wait a minute, doesn't that one look like a...
He's saying the things that I want to hear. You know, Kentucky's a very red state, so it's not surprising that you get a bunch of people cheering for Ken saying something so wrong and so stupid. The Supreme Court justices do interpret the law. Congress makes the laws. The president signs them into effect. I'm just a bill. Anyway, what your Bible says. This is just one more thing to show that we're not a nation based on Christianity. We're a nation of laws, and our laws don't read that way for a reason. And yes, while the Christian nationalists and the right wing has been, arguing about marriage is a man and a woman, that's just not true. It's stupid people saying stupid things. Going on now.
A dinosaur? Are you saying God made dinosaurs on day 6? Well, the word dinosaur is a modern word. Buddy and I are going to talk about that soon. So there was no word dinosaur back then. But dinosaurs are groups of animals, land animals, that sort of are like...
It seems to me God didn't say one word about marriage. That was Adam, who was also talking about leaving his mother and father, which was a thing the very first human would definitely say. Right. Why would that be there? It's almost like bits of this came from another story, and you see the inconsistencies because of it.
Reptiles, but instead of having legs out to the side like a crocodile or an alligator, they have their legs underneath more like a horse or a cow or something like that. And there's a number of groups of these land animals that later on we call dinosaurs. But yes.
Some dinosaurs weren't that way, by the way. There's bird-hipped, and which we're not going to get into all that. Never mind. Forget I said anything.
God made all the land animals on day 6. So what we today call dinosaurs were made on day 6 alongside Adam. And I can prove it to you as a photograph Eve took in the Garden of Eden. And you can see the Garden of Eden was obviously in Australia, right?
But yeah, why are those animals limited to Australia again? From your narrative, they end up in the Middle East at some point, but they're only in Australia before and after. Okay.
And you can imagine headlines in the newspaper: dinosaurs made on sixth, oh, well, actually, it should say, what they will call eventually dinosaurs were made on sixth day. Read all about it. And so here's Adam and Eve and the dinosaurs. And then I have boys and girls say, Mr. Ham, how long ago was that? Well, actually, you can work it out from the Bible, because God's word tells us he made everything in 6 days, and there were 6 ordinary days. And then on day 6, he made land animals, and he made the first man. What was his name? Adam. And you know what the Bible does then? God gives us a history and tells us when people were born. For instance, as we go through in the Old Testament there, we read that Adam had a son, Seth, when Adam was 130 years old. Then when Seth was 105 years old, he had a son, Enosh. And then when Enosh was 90...
Just by the way, he's kind of skipping over this, but it talks about people being 800 and 900 years old here, which is impossible. But okay.
Years old, he had a son, Kenan, and then Kenan had a son at 70, and then he had a son at 65 called Jared, and Jared had a son, Enoch, at 162, and then Methuselah was born when Enoch was 65 years old, and then we keep going on. Methuselah fathered Lamech at 187, Lamech fathered Noah at 182. Then Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, when he was 500. And when you go through and you come to the time of Abraham, from Abraham to when God stepped into history as the babe in a manger, and then up to today, it comes to about 6,000 years. Not millions.
All right. I think this is the perfect graphic to talk about this, and then we're going to kind of head towards wrapping things up. This is going to be a shorter show today. Next week when Jess is back, we'll look at some of the claims that AIG and Ken Ham makes about archaeology. So all of this requires that you start from the position that the Bible is true. But these are the very reasons that you shouldn't believe the Bible is true. If you believe in God, great, whatever, I don't care. But whenever it comes to things like these, we know that this isn't true. We know that there wasn't a worldwide flood 4,000 years ago. We know that life is older than 6,000 years, that the earth is older than 6,000 years, that the many things in the universe are billions of light years away from us, which excludes them only being 6,000 years old. Very often in science, and let's switch back over to this screen. Very often in science, we talk about what's probably the case. We talk about what the evidence shows, and we make conclusions based on that. In induction, and deduction as well. But some of the things that we know for certain, though, because it's not just that the evidence points to a different conclusion, to the exclusion of this conclusion. It's that the evidence excludes these things as even being a possibility. There is no possibility that the earth is 6,000 years old. There is no possibility that there was a worldwide flood 6,000 or 4,000 years ago that laid down all the layers that we see in the geologic column, and that there's these things did not happen, and we know that. That's why creationism becomes so absurd. But I want you to remember that according to Pew Research, something like 35% of all adults in the United States, not just Christians, not just people, of just adults, believe that the earth was created in a single creation event less than 10,000 years ago, and that all life was created by God at the same time. 35% 7% of adults in the United States believe this. In my state, it's like 41 or something stupid. This is not a fringe conspiracy theory. This is mainstream. A lot of times people talk about, well, you shouldn't protest the ark or argue with creationists or any of these things because it brings attention to them or whatever. That's false. That's just bullshit. That's wrong. That's a stupid thing that atheists say, and you should stop saying it. This is very much a mainstream thing. Now, what I will say is we should definitely stop trying to have arguments with creationists where we allow science and creationism to be placed on an equal playing field and then argue science against creationism. That's wrong. What we should do is go ahead and accept the things that science finds as fact, and the things that are fact, use those, and just, we should ridicule these people, and we should protest against these people that are indoctrinating children in this way and using taxpayer money to do it. That's, what else can I say? I don't think going and facts are great. Understanding evolution, if you fancy yourself a biologist or whatever, fantastic. Not the best way to have an argument with creationists. In fact, I would say if you want to lose, go to a debate with a creationist and argue facts about evolution, because that's how you will lose. That's how you will be made to look stupid, because it's not about that. And if you think it's about that, please stop engaging with creationists. You're doing more harm than good. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't point out the wrong things that they say. The best way to do it doesn't matter. If you have a goal of whatever, then fine. But I don't think that being right is everything. And I think that atheists, especially when it comes to creationism, say a number of really fucking stupid things. Listen, have you heard, and this may not even, YouTube may not like me making this comparison. Have you heard the saying, don't take a knife to a gunfight? Have you heard that? Maybe not. That might be some Kentucky weird shit. I'm not sure. But don't take science to a creation argument. Right? Like, do you know, and listen, I do not fancy myself great at debates or arguing or any of those things. I'm not. I don't even prepare for those things. I just go and say whatever. In fact, I'll be arguing with a Christian about the existence of God on Friday on the channel Truth Over Tea. I'll post all that stuff. It won't be on my channel. It'll be on a Christian channel. So I understand if nobody makes it. I don't care. The objective here isn't views. It's to have a conversation with somebody that is at least, I think, attempting to be honest in their position, even though it's wrong. We'll see. Maybe not. And that'll change the tone if that's the case. But I'll post all that stuff in Discord and YouTube and everywhere for anybody that wants to come see it Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. But look, let's just use Kent Hovind as an example. So whenever Kent Hovind starts saying, well, there's 6 types of evolution, and you think water fell on a rock and blah blah blah, arguing with him, going into an argument made on emotional things with facts is not the way to engage with that. Those facts should support the argument, but you don't use those facts themselves to make the argument. So what I did with Kent Hovind, which he hates me now and won't speak to me, is I kept forcing him every time he would say evolution's imagination and all that crap. Every time he did that, I said, "Well, Kent, don't you believe that it was made from nothing? Don't you believe that everything was just poofed into existence?" Every time he said something about these things, I said, "But wait a minute, isn't that actually what you believe?" Make them keep saying the absurdity over and over, because that's the thing that turns people away from it. It is hearing these absurd claims that spark some curiosity in somebody to go look for themselves. And then they go down the rabbit hole of, hey, this other thing's not true either. Show people the absurdity of it. Don't try to teach them facts about evolution that he's just going to say, "Nuh-uh, that's not it." Let him lie in the bed he has made, reap what he has sown. I'm just joking. Do it however you want. I don't give a shit, really. I just, it bothers me so often to see atheists making these arguments out there about, oh well, no, and this, and it's based on evidence and all these things. That's true for how science works. That is how science works. Science is not equivalent to creationism. Quit trying to make it that. Like, quit trying to argue science against the creationist argument, because it's not the same thing. Smell the beans he hath digested. Yeah, I like that one, Amber. uh, they're not the same. So stop. Please stop. Uh, you know, pointing out cladistics and I think the phylogeny challenge is great. Like, I think that it's great to challenge them to answer some question in science based on their beliefs in creationism, but just make them say what they believe. That's all you have to do. Just make them constantly say the stupid thing that they believe, and then show that it's stupid. Show that it's based on nothing. Show that it's based on a book that's wrong about everything. I like to take them to the lineforjesus.org, Bible Contradictions. It's an interactive site with Bible contradictions. I think I can post it in chat. Let me see here, because I keep it in my bookmarks bar here. This should do it. Go check that out. Make them answer for the things that they're saying. Don't defend science. It's not your job to defend science. You shouldn't be defending science against creationism. That's called burden shifting. We should never be in that position. Make them answer for the stupid things they say. No, it's not your job to explain every branch of science to a creationist. And that's what they'll ask you to do. Because as soon as you answer about evolution, they're going to want to know about stars. They're going to want to know about chemistry. They're going to want to know about paleontology, and on and on and on. And every time you answer one of those questions, they're going to move on to the next one like you didn't say shit. They're not going to reconcile any of that. So stop. Wrong way to interact. Depending on your goal, I guess. If your goal is to attempt to teach science to a creationist, go for it, whatever. But you're failing. You're failing. And to the atheists that go around saying we shouldn't interact with these people, and all this other stuff, and treating creationism like it's this fringe conspiracy thing that Christians don't actually believe that. Yeah, a lot of them do. Almost half of them. Yeah. So stop that too, please. That's stupid. All right. Now that I called everybody stupid, bye.